Ladies and gentlemen, can I please have your attention?
I am that dude, Bodkins. Patty to patty. It's ridiculous. No way. There's nobody else out there. He's your guy. Give a big round of applause for the one and only BodkinShow. I'm going to repeat that again, folks. I didn't stutter. Welcome to the Bodkins Show.
Hey, good morning, beautiful people on this lovely Wednesday, the last day of August, man. Time is flying. We are approaching prime football season. I believe 1 week away, really. Not next Sunday, I think, but the Sunday after. So, wow. We are getting to it. Actually, I believe it's next Sunday, folks. I don't know. I could be wrong, but we're in prime football season. We're getting ready to kick that off. I'm excited. We got a lot of things popping up here in the world of on the BodkinShow for football. This Sunday night, Kenny and Craig will be joining me. We're going to be breaking down all the divisions. I know I've been breaking them down already on here, and we will do that. We have one more division we got to do today. That's the tough AFC West. We'll get to that in just a minute. And then we also got a lot of NFL news we'll break down. I'm not going to get into all the cuts in the world. I mean, Jesus, a lot of guys got cut as teams went down to 53 rosters. Before we get into that, this past weekend, make sure you check out Head Kicks and Haymakers. That was on Sunday morning. We'll have another episode of Head Kicks and Haymakers this Sunday. And we'll talk about some of the fights and things like that. But last Sunday, great show on Head Kicks and Haymakers. Please do check that out. Also, make sure you're liking and subscribing over at Let's Talk Sports, sharing. You know, the guys, there was no Buffoon and Bodkins on Monday. Tanner had some things going on. I had some things going on. But we'll be back hopefully this Monday. I might be 3 sheets to the wind on Monday's show because got the big fantasy draft happening a couple hours prior to. So my big money league. I'm in a couple different leagues, but the main league that I care about the most is my big money league, and that draft is happening on Monday. So excited about that. Excited to talk smack with the boys, and excited to get my championship belt back. That's right. I was won 2 years ago. Missed out last year, so I'm going to come back and try to with vengeance and get my belt here. Kenny's the owner of that belt right now, but he won't have it after this season. Big Daddy Bodkins will be taking that belt back home with him. So let's go ahead and get into some of this NFL news. The biggest news I thought of the last few days here, Jimmy G sticking around, staying with the 49ers, signing a renewed deal, a 1-year deal. It's like $9 million to be the backup, the highest paid backup in the NFL. And a no trade clause. So what that means is, from what I've read, is that while the 49ers will still seek a trade, Jimmy gets to be part of those negotiations, kind of picks where he gets to go. I kind of like that deal. I think the Seahawks were in on trying to get him, but the 49ers just didn't want that to happen. They did not want to trade Jimmy to their rival in Seattle. I mean, he would have made Seattle better. I mean, obviously, I've said that before on this program, but I don't know if Seattle's still been a playoff team. But I get it from the 49ers standpoint. I get it from Jimmy G's standpoint. He didn't want to go to some bum team and then just be miserable. He's a guy, you know, if Trey Lance doesn't work out or gets hurt, Jimmy G's a capable guy. He's shown that. Got you to the NFC Championship game, got you to the Super Bowl a couple years ago. So, I mean, he's capable. He's probably the best backup in the league, right? I mean, right now, if you'd have to put your money on somebody, say who's the best backup, Jimmy G's probably the guy. What other backup quarterback? I guess Joe Flacco won a Super Bowl, but at this point in their careers, I'll take Jimmy G over Joe Flacco. In other NFL news here, I'm just going to run down some highlights. How about this big move? The Saints trade Chauncey Gardner-Johnson to the Eagles. Gardner-Johnson was a starter for them, and then they trade him pretty much to to the Eagles for a bag of balls. They tried to get a deal extension done, and they couldn't get one. So they trade him to the Eagles. So gone is Gardner Johnson from the Saints, now putting on that Eagles uniform. Also, we already talked about Jimmy G here. I'm trying to run down these highlights here. Speaking of the 49ers, so they remake that deal. They cut their quarterback Nate Sudfeld, who it looks to be signing with the Lions. And they cut their two backup quarterbacks, Blau and Tim Boyle. The Cardinals, they traded for Raiders cornerback Trayvon Mullen, who was a second-round pick in 2019. Speaking of the Raiders, they cut their offensive tackle, last year's 2020's first-round pick in Ledbetter or whatever his name was, but cut him. They tried to trade him. I always find it funny when they're like, the team tried to trade him, but then they cut him. Well, yeah, no duh. If I'm a team and a guy's like, hey, you guys want this guy for this amount, means you're probably trying to get ready to cut him, especially around cut time. Nah, if we wanted him, we'll wait. We'll sign him on the cheap. And, in that first round pick, the Raiders are on the hook there for about $8 million. But they ended up also trading their second round pick from 2019, Trayvon Mullen, to the Cardinals. How about the Raiders just cleaning house of John Gruden's crappy draft picks? I mean, getting rid of everybody. It's kind of interesting. I mean, he had a slew of bad ones. This just goes to show you when sometimes the coach who's the GM doesn't work out so well. Kenny's just saying, he's like, you save yourself competing with 31 teams if you want the dude, though. Yeah, but I mean, take your chances. That's kind of how somebody like that. I mean, obviously nobody wanted him because they didn't trade him. Kenny's pounding in here. I'll give Kenny some credit. Every draft he was, bad mouthing Gruden, saying how dumb it was on some of these picks, and so I'll give him his props there. Back to our NFL news real quick. The Bills placed cornerback Tre'Davious White on the PUP list. Means he'll miss the first 4 games. The Dolphins did with the same with Byron Jones. So he'll miss the first 4 games. Jimmy Ward, the 49ers put Jimmy Ward on the injured reserve, meaning he'll miss the first 4 games. So some big names are going to be missing the first quarter of the season there. On some good news, Shaquille Leonard, he's moved off the PUP list. So he'll be ready to go hopefully week 1. Deion Jones is off the PUP list for Atlanta. And then back to some cuts here. The Bills did cut O.J. Howard, who I was surprised they got cut. And then you look at the Jaguars traded, I call him Laviska Shenault to the Panthers, and the cut Laquan Treadwell. And those guys were like their top 2 wide receivers last year for Trevor Lawrence. So it looks like they've obviously improved that group. So, yeah. Let's see. Surprisingly, the Chiefs kept Rojo, Ronald Jones. It was reported that he was going to be on the cut side, but they kept him. But it looks like he's about the third pick, third draft, third on the depth chart here. How about that for you guys, fantasy guys that drafted him early? A lot of people were kind of high on him, and now he was damn near cut. Sometimes it pays to wait on the old fantasy draft. Some other one. That's pretty much it. How about the Vikings? They cut Kellen Mond. They did trade for Nick Mullins. And they also cut Sean Mannon. Oh, that guy was the Raiders guy was Alex Leatherwood. That's what I kept saying his name wrong. Sony Michel cut by the Dolphins. And then who else was cut? I'm trying to think. Marlon Mack cut from the Texans. And then there were some nice little trades here. The Titans got Dennis Daly from the the Steelers. The Steelers pick up Jesse Davis, a couple of linemen traded. The Steelers also traded for Broncos edge rusher Malik Reed. So, I mean, some teams, the Cowboys dumped both their backup quarterbacks, Cooper Rush and Will Greer. And that's pretty much it there on the NFL news that we had yesterday. I mean, the highlights. I mean, I'm not going to get into like all these other guys. Can you say no one talk? Yeah, the Lions cut Gerard Davis. The Dolphins picked up Trey Flowers. So that was a nice pickup by the Dolphins too. Before I forget about that one. So let's get into our last little division preview here. The tough AFC West, man. Whew, I say this division for last because I think arguably top to bottom is the best division in football, at least on paper, right? Again, as I make these picks, I always want to say if healthy and when healthy. So we'll do bottom to top here. Man, and I just think I've gone back and forth between these two teams. I'm going to have to say the Raiders at 4. I know that they got they got Devontae Adams. Their offense is nice. I worry about their defense. I mean, they did bring in Chandler Jones. Max Crosby's a stud. I mean, we talked about Devontae. Hunter Renfro's still there, obviously. I mean, this is the weapons that – I mean, Derek Carr is going to be, have a stacked team here. You know, Josh Jacobs is still there. They did surprisingly cut Kenyon Drake, who actually is about to sign with the Ravens. I mean, their defense is – I just question their secondary. A lot of penalties there last year. I mean, they made the playoffs, but I mean, they gave up a lot of points last year. And then Kenny's in here. He's talking a lot of smack here. Clearly, he's higher on the Raiders. They'll finish above the Broncos. They made the playoffs. I mean, they did. I just think there was kind of a Cinderella run for them last year with Coach Bisciotti. We'll see if McDaniels can do in his second 10 years as a head coach. I just think their defense is going to let them down. I like the Broncos defense a little bit more. I mean, the Broncos finally have a quarterback. I mean, Russ, new coach, Nathaniel Hackett coming from Green Bay. I like their running backs. Javonte Williams, Melvin Gordon, their receivers, their receiving core, Cortland Sutton, Jerry Jeudy, KJ Hamler, their defense, you look at Draymond Jones, stud, Pat Sutton, Surtain the second, I mean, his second year now, Bradley Chubb, still growing, these are, Ronald Darby, Justin Simmons, their secondary in Denver is absolutely young and really good. That's the reason I like the Broncos more than the Raiders, just the defense. I mean, the offense match up almost perfectly when you look at those two teams. A lot of points are going to be scored in the AFC West, folks, because all four of those offenses are absolutely stellar. We get to the number 2 team here. And I got to go with the Chargers. Chargers going to Charger, folks, until they don't. And they could end up finishing 3rd or 4th because the Chargers are going to Charger. But I mean, they just have so much talent. The Chargers do that. It's almost hard for them to screw this up here. I mean, we're talking year 3 now with Justin Herbert, who's an absolutely dog. Mike Williams, obviously, Keenan Allen. They still got Austin Eckler. Their offense is absolutely stud. Good offensive line. They added, obviously, to their defense, bringing in Khalil Mack. They gave Derwin James. If he can stay healthy, they have Asante Samuel Jr., and they brought in J.C. Jackson in the offseason. Still got Joey Bosa. I mean, just it's going to be hard for them to screw this up with as much talent as they have. But the Chargers going to somehow charge it, man. They're going to lose some games they probably should win, and they probably win some games they probably should lose. That's just what they do. I mean, it's been that way for 20-plus years, folks. They always, 9-8, 8-8. Somehow, they have some seasons where they still charge her, whether even when they're 10-6 and make the playoffs. Some of those games they still charge her. Eventually, they're going to charge her. Remember, it was like way back in the day. We're talking now 15-plus years when they had Marty Schottenheimer, and they were like only had one loss, and then they just charged it up in the postseason against the Patriots. Kenny's commenting here. He said they'll lead the league in single possession losses and finish. That's exactly what the Chargers going to charge her. That's what that means. I mean, we'll see. I mean, their coach had some questionable, made some questionable calls last year. I think, another year of growing, he'll get better. And then the class of the division still, folks, until proven otherwise, you have to go with Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes. I mean, I was asked on the show the Sunday on Let's Talk Sports, who do I trust, or do I trust this or that? I said, I still trust Andy Reid, and I still trust Patrick Mahomes. Andy Reid, even some bad days in Philly, that team was always constantly winning divisions. Whether they would lose in the playoffs and things like that, not till the very end were they not making that team, not till the very end of Andy Reid's tenure. But I mean, here in Kansas City, what's it like 8 straight years they've won the division? 8 straight years. That's with Alex Smith and Patty Mahomes. They still got a lot of talent, even though they got rid of, traded Tyreek Hill. I mean, they did add. I mean, they brought in Juju Smith-Schuster. They did add MVS, Stonehands there. Still got Miko Hardman. The offensive line still, I mean, it's still pretty, better than what it was. Remember 2 years ago in the Super Bowl when Mahomes was running for his life. As long as they brought in Carlos Dunlap. They did lose the Honey Badger. But Frank Clark, I mean, now you got Frank Clark and Carlos Dunlap on the same opposite sides. They brought in looks like a new corner, drafted the corner, Justin Reed. I mean, their secondary is going to be questionable, and that's not a good division to be questionable, but they're going to be able to put up points. Andy Reid's still going to be able to do his thing. Mahomes is still going to be – they're talented just as much as anybody else. I'd say, to me, top to bottom, the Chargers probably have the most talent, but I just don't – until proven otherwise, there's just some things I got to see it to believe. Just like the Bengals last year. I had to see it to believe it. Now I'm all on board with the Bengals. Maybe because I love Joe Burrow, but Kenny's got some more comments here. He's saying, been a long time since the Chiefs got to put a chip on their shoulder. Now everyone overlooking and picking the Chargers. Exactly. And I'm not, like I said, I got to be proven otherwise, when it comes to the Chargers and the Chiefs. So that's a big weekend here coming up too. First real full weekend of college football. Last weekend, the biggest talk was Nebraska losing another one-score game to Northwestern, all the way in Ireland. How about that? 2 Big Ten teams battling in Ireland. And I had read that I think something had happened in Ireland, and they were giving out like free beer and free something during the game. I can't remember what, like whether like the power went out or something had happened, rain delay, but they were serving up free beer at the stadium. But Nebraska lost. And how about this? We were getting ready to get Kenny just kind of chiming in here. How does Scott Frost, Kenny? The internet went down. That's what happened. And they were giving out free beer at the game. How does that? That's awesome. Scott Frost, we was just getting ready to talk about that. Kenny kind of queued that up here. Scott Frost, I mean, his loss, he's like in the last 9 games, one-score games, 0-9. His overall one-score games is absolutely atrocious. His seat's super hot. They brought him back, hoping this would maybe be the year, because I think they brought him back simply because he's the hometown kid, the hometown hero. Won a natty there, I believe, maybe 2 natties. I was trying to think if he won the Heisman. I'm not too sure on that. That might have been Eric. I know that was Eric Crouch, but they did say if he won his next 50 games in a row, he would still, his record still wouldn't be good as Bo Pelini. As you remember, Bo Pelini was their Nebraska coach for a while, and they ended up firing him. And Bo Pelini was just going like 8-8, almost every year. It was 500 or above almost every year, and that's just, Nebraska still thinks it's the 1990s, folks, or the 1980s. It's been 30 years, Nebraska. You got to lower your expectations. You should have kept Bo. Scott Frost, just as whatever reason. He did great at UCF. Now the pressure's on him in his hometown, and it's just not working out. Kenny says he won't make it to week 5. I think they'll keep him this year, and then they'll give him a pat. They'll fire him at the end of the year. I don't know if they'll fire him midseason. Crazier things have happened. But this weekend's highlights games, the biggest two big ranked teams here: Arkansas versus Cincinnati. I had this pulled up. I should have wrote down the what they were ranked. Let me pull that back up real quick. And Cincinnati's ranked number 23. Arkansas ranked number 19. I like Arkansas is the favorite here at minus 6.5 or 6 at 6. I'll take Arkansas at minus 6 here. I'm kind of with you, Kenny. Kenny said Arkansas going to put it number on Cincy. I do too. I think the same thing. I'll take Arkansas minus 6, folks. Give Arkansas the credit. I think Cincinnati, they're ranked just because they were in that college playoff game last year. They lost too much on the defense, too much on the offense. It's time for a rebuild in Cincinnati. And I don't mean like full on, like they're just going to have to, it takes time when you're one of these like mid-major type teams. They can't just retool like they're Alabama when they lose as many good players as they have. So I'll take Arkansas at minus 6, folks. Kenny's chiming here. I take Arkansas up to 9.5. So, I'll take Arkansas minus 6. My buddy Chris Landez will be pretty happy come Saturday afternoon. The other big game, the nightcap game here at 6:30 Central. Number 5 Notre Dame and number 2 Ohio State. Let me ask you guys this: how is Notre Dame ranked number 5? First of all. And number 2, how are they ranked number 5 and are 17-point dogs against Ohio State in the shoe? Man, 17's a lot, but I'd take Ohio State. I'm going to take Ohio State in the point at minus 17. I just think Ohio State's going to be more prepared. They're in the horseshoe. I don't trust Notre Dame. It feels like for the last 20 years, Notre Dame's come up in these games and somehow been ranked. Kenny's saying because Irish are always overrated. Exactly. They are always overrated. But I'm going to take Ohio State at minus 17. It's a lot of points and usually double digit games. I think it's always too much. But in college football, it's about the only time I take a team when they're a double digit favorite or a dog or a favorite. And I'll take Ohio State at minus 17. So lock it in on our 2 big college games this week. I'm taking Arkansas at minus 6.5 or minus 6, and I'm taking the Buckeyes, the Ohio State at minus 17. AJ Hawk said they did it. They're doing like a 20-year of the 2002 national championship team. So how about that? Remember that game was crazy. That was the year they played Miami and won the national championship. Man, that's 20 years ago. Wow. Kenny Kitty, join your conference, you bums, talking about Notre Dame. They're going to have to. Notre Dame's going to have to do something more. I mean, they're going to be getting phased out here when all these conferences merge into like power threes here. So that kind of sums up our college football and NFL talk. Again, Kenny and Craig will be on this Sunday. We're going to break down all the divisions. I'm going to get a lot of their point of views here. We'll break that down Sunday night, this Sunday night. We'll have some more news coming for you about what's happening here with the NFL on this channel. I'll be joined by the boys as always. But Sunday, check us out here at 8:30. It'll be a lot of good, interesting talk between me, Kenny, and Craig on divisions and who's going where and playoff teams and things like that. All right, so let's get into some baseball news. Next week, I'll have the last of the monthly power rankings here before we get into the final month of the season. But big news: Aaron Judge hits home run number 51. I don't think he's breaking Barry Bonds' record, but could be tying Roger Maris. That would be incredible. Either tie or break Maris's Yankee record, which would be obviously the American League record as well. So huge. Judge has just been killing it. Give the guy the MVP. Give him his $300-400 million dollars. Shoot, he could just put a zero and write million next to how many home runs he hits in the postseason. A team's going to want to give him that. In other big news, man, Albert Pujols, the greatest player probably of, I'd say, my generation. I mean, I'm not going to lie. I'm not a Cardinals fan. Everybody knows that. But, Pujols is, I don't know. I mean, I say my generation, but at least the last 20 years, I mean, to me, I have a soft spot for King Griffey Jr., and I think Griffey is probably overall better, but just health-wise, I mean, Pujols, that 10-year run he had, his first 10 years in St. Louis was just incredible. Obviously, we know whatever happened in Anaheim the last other 10 years seems like just wasn't always healthy and this and that. But 600 hits his 694th home run. He's getting closer and closer to 700, getting closer to trying to pass A-Rod. More importantly, his 450th home run off a different pitcher. 450 different pitchers have given up a home run to Albert Pujols. Just absolutely incredible. First of all, the longevity. Second of all, that just shows you how good he is at hitting 450 home runs at different pitchers. That's just wild. Kenny's kind of talking about Albert Pujols' first 10 years, best 10 years of hitting ever. I mean, I'm not gonna disagree with that. You cannot like a team and still have respect for their players, and that's kind of what I do with Albert Pujols. I don't like the Cardinals, but I have respect for Yachty, and I have respect for Pujols, and I have respect for Wainwright. I just hate the Cardinals because I'm a Cubs fan, and I hate that it seems like the Cardinals are always good, even when they're rebuilding. They're a great organization. I'll say that. I just hate them because they're my rival. So that kind of wraps up our quick in baseball notes. And Kenny's kind of Pujols is my Tim Duncan. And so let's get to some NBA news here. We talked about KD and all that stuff last week on last week's show. But Markieff Morris to the Nets on a one-year deal. A lot of these guys are going to be going to the Nets. I think some of these veterans sign one-year deals to try to catch a ring. But more importantly here, talks broke down between the Jazz and the Knicks. And so the Knicks said, okay, well, we're going to sign R.J. Barrett to a 4-year, $120 million extension. And he becomes the youngest New York Knick in that franchise to reach $100 million. So he's at 22 years old, a $100 million man. So that obviously he's not going to the Jazz now because you don't sign a guy to that type of deal and trade him to the Jazz. So RJ Barrett, 4-year, $120 million, becomes the youngest New York Knicks history to reach $100 million on his contract. So, wow, right? I mean, Absolutely. So that kind of wraps up our NBA news. So who knows what will happen with Mitchell there in Utah now with that deal. I think the Knicks are out. Obviously, they're not getting Barrett in that deal. And then, so yeah. In other news we got to talk about before we get out of here, Serena Williams won the match on, was it Monday night? Has a match tonight. Playing in her final tournament. The GOAT of all, I wouldn't say of all, the GOAT of women's tennis for sure. And arguably the GOAT of women's sports in my mind. I mean, give me another female that has the accolades that Serena has, folks. I'm waiting. That's right. There isn't one. I mean, Serena, I mean, you start off with her doubles career with Venus, and then you get into her singles career. Just an absolute stud, dog, whatever term you want to use, GOAT. She is playing in a match tonight. I hope she wins. It'll be tough. Kenny's kind of chiming in here on the Serena here. Serena had 2 Hall of Fame careers, absolutely, as a doubles Hall of Fame career and as a singles Hall of Fame career. And then you could probably put in her first 8 years of her singles career, and they're like, man, that's a Hall of Famer. Then you put in the back half as well, and you're like, man, that's another Hall of Famer. And she's had 2 of those careers. I mean, much like Tom Brady when it comes when it comes to that. Halfway through her singles career, they said she didn't have it anymore, and then she won a dozen more majors. Exactly. I mean, Serena is the GOAT of women's sports, folks. I mean, I'll say that till I'm blue in the face, and until I'm probably, I don't know if anybody's ever going to come as close as she is. I just don't. But this is her final one. Father Time has caught up with her. She's had at least one kid, I know, maybe 2. I can't remember. I think 2. 1 for sure. But Serena, we wish you the best of luck. I hope she wins tonight. I hope she wins the whole tournament. I don't think she will. I wouldn't put my money on it. But, man, what an incredible story that would be. She probably looked Monday night the best she's done in the last probably 3-4 years. She looked really well, looked healthy. But I hope Kenny's saying it's not Father Time. She said she wants more kids. Well, I mean, it's a little bit of both, I think. Father Time, I think, she wasn't going to continue to knock out majors, not just Father Time. So, yeah, it's probably not just Father Time. I mean, it's a little bit of both. It's Father Time, other careers. She's done everything, and we wish her the best of luck here. I hope she does win the tournament. But I think tonight probably could be her last night. And if I'm not, I wanted to get this out before on the air. But, man, just the GOAT of all women's sports, man. We're going to leave it at that. This has been another great episode of the Bodkin Show, folks. I appreciate y'all tuning in. Make sure you like and subscribe, share. So tell a friend, be a friend, share with a friend. We're on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. If you can't catch us on YouTube, head over there. Give us a nice little 5-star rating, and everything else. Thank you, folks. We'll be back on Sunday. We'll be back on Sunday with Head Kicks and Haymakers at 7 a.m. Central Time Zone. And then we'll be back Sunday night. Kenny and Craig joining me Sunday night for our special NFL breakdown. We'll probably get some fantasy pointers from Kenny and Craig. We'll call it the K&K Fantasy Corner. So we'll get some fantasy breakdown from them guys, kind of see what they're thinking, a couple guys that they might be higher on and things like that. From the K&K Fantasy Corner, we'll probably wrap up the show that way on Sunday night. So tune in. We'll break down some divisions. We'll break down some fantasy stuff, and we'll go from there. We'll be back Sunday night. Make sure, you're liking, subscribing, you're sharing, doing all that fun stuff. Check out my man Dan Harris over at Let's Talk Sports as well. Make sure you're subscribing to all his stuff. I mean, they got it. We got everything covered. A full lineup. We got every division covered over at Let's Talk Sports and football during football season. Every division, or every team, not just every division, every team. That's right. 32 teams. Dan's got somebody covering them. and they're going to be talking about them. So full-fledged football force coming your way on Let's Talk Sports, and then some. And if there's another sport, Dan will find it. You tell them if there's a sport you want some coverage on, Dan will find a guy that can cover it, and they'll talk about it on Let's Talk Sports. Appreciate it for Dan. Appreciate it at Tanner and the Buffoons as well. We'll see you guys Sunday, hopefully, with Head Kicks and Haymakers, another episode of Head Kicks and Haymakers. There was no UFC fights this past Saturday. That's why we didn't talk about it. This Saturday, though, Surreal Gone, Tai Tuivasa. We talked about it on Head Kicks and Haymakers. Head over there and catch that preview. We'll catch you Sunday morning, Head Kicks and Haymakers, 7 a.m. And then we'll be back on the Bodkin Show again. Kenny and Craig joining me on Sunday night. Again, be a friend, tell a friend, share with a friend, folks. You guys have a blessed rest of the week. We'll catch you. I'm going to hit that outro, baby.